Hello. Hey, Sunburns. Hey, Gabby. 3 months. Yay. Thank you, Tojo. Let's see. Have I been? Today has been pretty low energy for me. So I am going to be a little more calm today. Yeah, we played our first session, kind of like session 0.5 kind of thing. It was our first like play session for one of the groups, and we managed to get them to a city that is one of the main ones. So that's fun and exciting. It's gonna actually let me switch. Let me switch. Is it floating in the air? Hold on, let me check. Oh, it is. Here, let me fix that. I finally updated OBS. And I think some of the things are not the right proportion anymore. There we go. Does this city have a name? Yes. It's called Calypso Point. It is a port city in my D&D campaign. And yeah, it's like the first town that they go to. So instead of starting at a tavern, my group is originally split across a couple different places. So I need them to come together. So they're gonna start as close as they can to a tavern, which is in a town. And we're doing session 0.5 to get them all to this point so that they can all start in the same place and meet each other. And I was looking for like, you know, I wasn't planning on actually like making images for towns and spaces because it's really easy for me to do characters, so I don't mind doing that stuff. But when I have to like make, you know, an actual, you know, landscape, that's like a whole different story. So for me, the thought of actually making a bunch of environments for this was a little bit too much for my blood. But then we were doing 0.5 with one of the groups, and they were making a lot of assumptions about the world based on like the image that I picked, which was so not like accurate at all. It was only barely accurate because it was next to an ocean. I was like, okay, this could do. So then, you know, I didn't have to do anything with that information. I could have just been like, oh, you know, don't pay too close attention to this. But then I got really like, man, if only I just drew my own and, you know, bucked up and actually just did it, because, you know, why not? It's kind of like learning how to draw environments, I tell myself. So I was like, I'm going to make it for the important places. And I consider the starting town an important place. But yeah, so we'll see. how this goes. I'm already like not super sure how long this will last, but do the first town and then yes, very big boat. Thank you. I have no idea what I'm doing. Calico. It's really lazy with it, so there's a lot of like random details that should be tighter, but yeah. Okay, so like I don't think any of them are here. I did my first we did my first session and I was like like trying to keep it was a lot of stuff. I had like I was trying to keep track of like the music. I was trying to keep track of all of like the storytelling beats I wanted to hit. I had notes for all of it. And then at some point I was like, wait, shit, I don't know if I like actually prepared enough stuff. So there was like there's a level of, oh shit, did I prepare enough? To, oh shit, maybe I didn't actually know what I wanted them to accomplish. And oh shit, I don't want to be monologuing this whole time. So, you know, trying to balance like, hey, you guys don't really have like a lot of solid things to do right now because I'm trying to get you guys to a certain location. And then I also wanted them to do combat at least once because I have a couple people that have never played D&D before in my groups, and so they were like completely new to the system, didn't know how combat worked, didn't know how a lot of the skills and stuff worked. So I had to, or I wanted to at least build like an encounter that they could do with less people and just learn how it works. And at the end of it, like, it's not like I didn't have fun, but I was also like, that was the scariest shit in the world. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And I mean, they were very receptive. They were like, hey, it was really fun. And I'm like, that's so good. I'm so glad. I am so fucking, like, I don't know. I was so nervous. It was a lot of stuff to deal with at once, but at the same time, I was like, I feel like I can make this work. In terms of just, it has a lot of my interests in terms of like the kind of theatrics of it, right? Like sort of putting on this sort of production is cool. But it was just like, you know, oh god, I want to keep all of their like story character things in mind, and I want to make sure that combat's interesting. Oh god, I'm not the kind of person who actually like thinks about strategy and stuff. Like, oh, it's nice to want fun combat where you can like play, you know, monsters that actually have strategies and stuff. But I am not someone who thinks in strategy most of the time. So to be like, oh, okay, yeah, the advice of play your monsters in a smart way. What if you're not a smart person? What happens then? You know, like not very well-minded in terms of like tactics or even just like trying to come up with battle maps. Oh my god. I don't know. Like, I understand the concepts. I'm not the kind of person who's like dying to do it though, you know? Like, some people love making maps. I loathe the concept. Some people, not the concept of maps, loathe the idea of making one. You know, battle maps coming up with different terrains and stuff. I'm just like, I don't know how the hell I'm supposed to do all this. Like, I am so not the kind of person that like has ideas for those things. And also just like, I caught myself really defaulting to some stuff, and I'm like, why am I not making this like more the fantasy that I like and love? Feeling so tied down to like this very safe level of fantasy. I think because it's like, in a way, almost too overwhelming to come up with new things, so I've like settled to trying to like just stay with safe things until I can figure out when to put the cool things in. Cool things by like stuff that I personally like in terms of what it means to have like a fantasy world with magic and all that kind of stuff. Because it's just like, oh god, I have to like invent new items. I have a character that wants to craft things. And I don't want them to not feel like this stuff is meaningful, you know? Like, I don't want them to worry about like this stuff not being planned out ahead of time. The thing is, I very rarely have the time to actually like sit down and be like, okay, I need to come up with like 200 fictional fish. I don't know, like, the thought is daunting. I think I'll be fine. I'll figure it out and I'll get into it. But there was a degree of like that first session of being like, oh my god, what did I get myself into? Like, what is this commitment that I've created? So very interesting, very interesting. Do I have any plans to start posting more of my work online? I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, it's always very nice that people want to see more of my work, and it's not like I don't want to share it. But to a certain extent, like, I've put a lot of effort into not making that like something I focus on. So most often than not, I just end up forgetting or being too lazy to do so. Not really out of like not wanting to post, but then there's also the element of like, I like when my art isn't necessarily shared, because I think it just kind of sets the precedent in my day-to-day that like, the work I'm making is not meant for other people, and so I am much more inclined to make art that I myself am much more interested in making, right? And when I stream is usually when you get to see me do stuff, which I like, because to a certain extent it kind of stops existing. That's why I post stuff on my stories. So if you follow my Instagram stories, you'll see quite a few pieces that I've never posted anywhere else. Because they're just like sketches that I have in my sketchbook. So I guess the long and short of it is, do I have any plans to start posting more? Sure, but to a certain degree, no, because I am significantly happier, I think, having the concept of posting my work not be an active thing I think about ever. So when I do think about it, I will absolutely post my stuff. I'm not against it. But if I'm not actively thinking about it, I'll probably forget and not do it. Hey, Prodigy. Rewards from subscribing. Yes, you will need to go onto the Discord to make sure your Discord account is connected with your Twitch account. When you join the server, you should get a role attached to you that lists you as a subscriber. And you'll get links to all of the things that have been released thus far in a channel that your role will add you to, called Paladin's Plaza. Yeah, the combat did not actually go too poorly. Like, one of them got low, but it wasn't like, there was no chance of, like, any kind of danger to the players. I tried to make it, like, difficult, but not necessarily deadly. So I kind of used the thing where, like, I lowered their armor class, raised their HP, and I just had, like, a bunch of them, really low level, like, mobs. And like as soon as they got to the person who was raising the mobs, like that was kind of like the thing, right? It's not kill everything, it's get to the person who's creating the enemies, right? Or the leader, so to speak. So they got that at some point, and it was fine. So combat was not like difficult by any means. It was just sort of like I really want to have. I'm inclined towards combat that's not strictly just like hit pool depletion, right? I love the idea of that. It's just difficult to say, like, how do I do that without having to, like, I feel like I need to literally sit down and just think just to come up with like a few good ideas, and that's not even going to be a fraction of the amount of combat that we'd want to do, because I would at least like to have one combat encounter per session, and we don't play long sessions. Like, it's about maybe 3 to 4 hours. So it'd probably only like 1 or 2 combat encounters in a session, if anything, but at least one big one per session. And so it's like, I want to come up with some interesting ones where, like, it's not just, you know, stay in place and hit the guy. Yeah, I was actually surprised. So we started at 7, and then we did some just basic like roleplay story elements until like 8 to 9, and then like 9 to like almost midnight was just one long combat encounter, and I was so surprised how long it was taking, even with just like 3 people. Which, yeah, we'll see. What are my characters' race and classes? So, I did a big fat boo boo, a giant whoopsie, a big mistake. I told too many people that I was interested in doing this. So there are two groups that are running the same campaign. One of them has 6 people, and one of them has 3. But we got a good mix of stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot of people. Hey, big oopsie, big whoops, big bad, big my mistake. This is a whole second job. My mistake. I am yes. I lay awake at night. Some nights. But you know, it's kind of like, look, this is a game I want to play with friends of mine that are very interested in playing D&D. I have some cool things that I want to try, and you know what? Go big or go home, I guess. Big or go home. I say that to make myself feel better. It's a mistake, but it's okay. We have so we have a bunch of stuff. We got a warlock, we've got clerics, we have a rogue fighter that's going to go into gunslinging, we got a druid fighter who's going to go into gunslinging. I have a monk barbarian, a straight monk that's just doing Way of the Ascended Dragon. Yeah, artificer, battlesmith. And we got a straight fighter battle master, which is also fun. And in terms of races, we got a lot of types. We got gnomes, Shadar-kai. We got some humans. We got some normal humans. We got a tiefling. One of them, I actually allowed them to do a Ardling from 1D&D, so they are a what is that like really popular dog, the on TikTok, the one that has like the long nose, the bourgeoisie, that dog. Yeah, she wanted to be that dog, so she's a dog, which is cool. So yeah, a lot of cool combinations. I think my favorite so far is the gnome. The gnome is a fisherman, so we're basically skinning like a ranger as like a fisherman. Like, I think she's got a like a basically a flail at the end of a fishing rod, a morning star type thing, and is just hopefully gonna wreck shop when we actually do combat. So I think that's my favorite like actual like funny thing. Everyone else did relatively serious stuff, I think, because I mentioned to them like I'm a little bit more keen to tell a more serious story. Not necessarily serious in terms of like always tonally grim, but just like there's gonna be lighthearted moments, there's gonna be, you know, mystical, very whimsical moments, and there's also gonna be moments that I think are just like cool and kind of dark tonally. And so to open that to be like a thing, right? I set the expectation of like, hey, I'm gonna try to play this a little bit more straight, a little bit more sincere. You can have fun and do gags and all that kind of stuff, but like I react to you in a way that makes sense in the logic of my world. So, you know, set that precedent. They all seem to get it, and their characters for the most part are all very like, they're very grounded, I think, for like what they intend to do in the world. They all, for the most part, have like soft goals that they want to complete or things that they want to work towards. So I think it all ended up being very good. Good player dynamics so far? Well, we'll see. I haven't played with full groups yet. So we haven't had a chance to really tell, like, if people are vibing together. The one group I did play with, like, was really small, and those people, I feel like, are, I think going to be maybe some of the more quieter, folks in the group, potentially. So it's possible that, like, their interactions with each other, were a lot more subdued than either their reactions when they're with everyone else, or maybe a lot more energetic. So hard to say yet what the group dynamic is gonna be, since I've only played with half of them. But I'm hoping it'll stay positive. I'm trying to keep an eye out for any red flags, but I don't know. I think for the most part, like, even though there are some people that haven't played yet, I think they are very respectful of each other. They've been friends for a very long time. Yeah, so I'm hoping that it'll turn out good. It is going to be very interesting. You guys will hear about it for sure. Glad I was able to catch another one of your streams. Welcome! I had a question that's been on my mind recently. Ever since I tried adjusting to digital, I've had points where I get frustrated that I can't sketch digitally with the same accuracy that I can on paper. To compensate, I started using my favorite lining brush at a larger size to block out shapes. While it's been faster for me, I feel guilty for using this method, as I see it as me not living up to my potential as someone who grew used to. I don't know the end of that sentence, but I think you shouldn't feel guilty for doing what you have to do to get to an end state, right? If it helps you, I don't think it's any lesser to use, like, a method to try and get closer to something that you know how to do. It's not like you are, you know, utilizing knowledge that you don't already have. It's you using ways to adapt to this new medium, right? Like, I don't draw the same digitally as I do traditionally. My sketches traditionally are very much, I don't know, they're a little, they just look different. I don't even know how to describe it. So I'd say, like, I think it's very normal for you to lose a sense of practice and precision when you first turn to digital art. It took me many years to get used to using, like, a digital medium, and even then, like, once I got used to that, then I stopped being used to drawing traditionally. So I think it's really just learning what it means for you to be drawing in this medium. And if you want to have the same kind of look from, you know, media to media, then finding ways to help you get used to it is not, like, something you should feel guilty about. Yeah, they do increase accuracy, but also, like, I think to a certain extent, you kind of have to, I don't know, there's a little bit of me that doesn't know if recommending getting an expensive tablet is, my go-to. Display tablets are great, though, for precision. I'd almost argue a little bit too much precision. I get weirdly, like, perfectionist with it, which is, like, something I'm trying to get rid of. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say just, like, don't be too hard on yourself about it. There's nothing wrong with using certain techniques to achieve a certain look. There's nothing wrong with feeling that your style looks different, right? I think that's very normal and very expected. I think it's just a question of how comfortable do you feel with that. If you want to achieve the same look, or if you really want to develop something different, like, it's all a matter of personal taste. However you feel is the appropriate path forward. You don't have to do erasers not follow rulers? Yes, they don't. I don't think you have to feel guilty for anything like of the sort. You're still putting in the work. Doing a good job. Hey, Chrissy. My DM does something called a daily chest where he asks us a question to answer in character to help all our characters get to know each other better. It helped us with a new person who integrated into our group recently. Answer in character. Oh, cool. What kind of questions would he ask? I'm curious how that works. In the town, it is a place where a lot of adventurers start their journey, and a place where a lot of adventurers also end their journey, or like go to retire. And so the statues represent a particular group of adventurers that were kind of like legends within their own generation of adventurers. And it's kind of meant to be like both a nod to the classic like RPG, I guess, like group of 4 team. So there's like a knight, sorcerer, wizard, one of the two, I don't know which one. A rogue, and I mean, by D&D terms, right, like probably one of them's a barbarian, so like the paladin could be a fighter. But it's kind of a nod to that, but then also like they are characters within the world, so they are referenced to some people that they might hear about. What is your character's nightly routine? Another was, what is a fond memory of your character's best friend? Oh, cool. That's cool. Yeah, I wasn't... For some people, they knew what their characters were all about, and they knew kind of like the backstory and the scope of it, and some people were very loose about it. So I'm anticipating that, down the line, if I wanted to do something like, oh, you have like a dream about a past instance, something that we did not talk about prior, I'd probably do something very similar where it's like, describe to me like a good happy memory that you have with X NPC or with a NPC from your life before. So that'll be really fun. It's just gonna be, I think, a bit of a learning curve for how do I even begin to deal with so many characters in such a short amount of time. and get everyone going and keeping people on track. With how many people there are in this group, I'm imagining that I will have to put in more effort to, like, you know, help them along. A lot of them have mentioned to me that they don't necessarily want to play like pure sandbox. So, trying to find like a good medium between giving them like time to explore and do stuff, but then also help them feel like they're making progress and moving forward. They don't necessarily, I think, want to just like wander the world in a sort of go where you want kind of way. I think they do want there to be like a story. Which worked for me really, just because I have like a soft story that exists in the background, but I was like prepared for like, you know, if they just wanted to go off and stay in a town somewhere, like that's fine. But it does seem like, you know, as much as they would like to travel the world and do stuff, they also do want everything that they do to have like an impact and like mean something. So it's going to be trying to keep my word in that aspect. Because it's like, I can talk about wanting to do these things, I haven't actually ever experienced doing them. So there's a degree to which it's like, okay, here, take all this knowledge that I learned from streamlining like dungeon master tips into my bloodstream for the past like 3-4 months, and make it happen. Right, apply the advice, do it, do the thing. So that's kind of why it's a little bit like, oh gosh, there's so much. Yeah, I've got some people that I think will probably be a lot more reserved when it comes to like interacting in character. I think for them it might end up being like a bit of a situational thing where you kind of have to throw the ball to them and then they'll find ways to participate. But I don't know, we were playing and it kind of felt like at the very least they were willing to jump in when they felt like they had something to say or do. So it's gonna be me trying to make sure I'm giving everyone an opportunity to do that. I'm trying to be conscientious, but we'll see. Like, overall, I am looking forward to trying again, if anything. Like, you know, the first one, after I finished, I was like, oh god, I didn't let them talk more about things, even though they didn't ask me for them to talk more about things, and I should let them describe their own characters, even though I drew them all. Like, I drew all of their characters ahead of time, so that we could have, like, these RPG sequences where they had all their characters lined up and they could see NPCs, and so there was a degree of like, oh god, why didn't I do that? But I am excited to try again, I think, is ultimately how I feel. Because in the moment when I was doing it, I was like, I can't do this. What is this commitment? But I've calmed down now, and I think I will look forward to the next session. We haven't decided for one of the groups. Um, one of them currently wants to play bi-weekly, or well, every 2 weeks, so bi-monthly, I guess. Yeah. Is it bi-weekly? Okay. Then yeah, they want one of them wants to play bi-weekly. But the other one hasn't yet decided how they feel about it. So we will just plan the next session when we get to it, I suppose. Yeah, like I've at least in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I can't be like a super strategic, like tactical person, I can at least be a very like theatrical person. So I'm like, you know, I have like a voice changer called Voice Mod where I can do all of like the demonic like ghostly whispers and stuff, and like I have art for all of them and the important NPCs. I've got like sound effects and music and ambiance and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I can do the theatrical part to make it feel very like storytelling friendly, and then when the combat comes around, it's all just like Hail Mary. Get this done, I guess. So we will see how that continues to fly. Hello, and music, YouTube. Or skip this. There we go. I got a lot of my stuff from a YouTube channel called Bardify, which I think uses stuff from Epidemic Sound and I think Epidemic Sound might be their main thing. And also just like stuff I hear from YouTube. There's quite a few channels that just do like, you know, epic brawl soundtrack, and it's like, okay. Hi, Anador. think it's just very human to reference your own history. It makes it easy, right? Because it's not easy to help people or have people connect to a story that is not somewhat grounded in what are human experiences, essentially. So for a story to reference actual human history is using human responses and human actions and things that we are inclined to or have seen play out, that it makes stories very, I think, grounded, and also gives them like kind of that sense of logic as well. It's like, oh, well, this happened in history, like this could happen again. So I don't think it's the fact that it references history that makes it memorable, but the fact that history itself has a very, like, it's like a pool of very real human experiences that we are empathetic to, or we understand, or we can understand like the logic of, because we also understand and empathize with the fact that there were humans that made those choices, created these stories that we now have collectively called history. So I think it's very natural for fiction and any kind of thing to reference that. But also, like, I think it is very, it's kind of expected for I think a fantasy game like Genshin to in some ways want to refer to historical things. I think it's very much in line with its aesthetic. When and how you got into D&D? So my previous workplace had, or I guess my previous full-time workplace had a, kind of like a game night that we put together, because we had some, like, tabletop kind of RPG veterans who wanted to play some board games with coworkers. And so there was, like, a game night server that we created, and they showed us a bunch of different games, like, Alice is Missing, and Last Girl, and, Honey Heist, among other things, Lasers and Feelings, right? So it's like a lot of different types of games. And then we've played variations of other systems as well. So we did like what is it? Dungeon something? There's a system that's like a simplified version of D&D, I feel like. It's like a what is it called? Dungeon World, yes. We did like a Dungeon World campaign for a little bit, and one of the people in the group decided that they wanted to start DMing, and they were most familiar with D&D. So we started a D&D 5e campaign, which is where my gunslinger character comes from, and we're still doing that one. And yeah, so that's kind of how that started. It was like a group of people that we kind of played a bunch of games together with occasionally, and then one of them decided that they wanted to try DMing. And so like that's kind of how that started, but I was also really interested in it because at that point I'd already kind of been watching like Dimension 20 and Critical Role and all that kind of stuff. So at first I was happy to just be a player, but then when I got more and more into like watching Dimension 20 and stuff like that, I started thinking like, oh, it'd be cool if I had like my own world that I made and all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of went from there. But yes, that game is still going on strong. Kaisa is still alive, thankfully. And she and some of my other characters might make an appearance in this game. I'm very excited. They will be Easter egg NPCs. Yes. I think that's good. Hi, Gaming. Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions when struggling to render digital paintings, but the contrast is always really low? It's good to always be evaluating like your I guess just kind of like composition of light and shadow. Something I always try to establish very early on in a piece, and you can do this later on as well if you're trying to like fix it. It's to try and figure out like what are my main areas of shadow, main areas of light, and try to be very cognizant about what the major light source is, because even if you have multiple light sources, the dominant one is going to be the one that often wins out in terms of like placing and kind of pushing the most amount of shadows onto the other side. So I try to always have like a dominant light source that I can point to and say like this has the most impact in my scene. And then I try to look at and evaluate the painting as it is and say like, is that obvious, right? Someone shouldn't have to try very hard to know exactly where the light is coming from when it comes to like your major light source, and they should understand very clearly like these are the shadows, this is the shadow shape. A common advice is like to group your shadow shapes because it makes it simpler to kind of try to organize like a kind of clean block of form. It's basically like choosing like simplifying your painting down to its like barest essentials. A technique you can use is if you posterize something and you try to take it down to the lowest level, you can see sort of the most basic breakdown of your values, and you can see if whether or not it's like too confusing, right? If it has too many sources that are around the same value range and so they all get lost, or if it's too dramatic. And based on that data, you can then kind of evaluate if that was your intention or if it is falling short of like what you're looking for. And really trying to maintain that shadow shape when it comes to giving it more of that value range, right? Instead of just trying to put in darks everywhere to bring the contrast up, try to focus in those areas of kind of like interest and incrementally raise the value or the value range within it. So faces are often an area of focus. So kind of focusing on bringing more and more of a value range, whether or not that means making your shadows darker or making your kind of overall lighter colors brighter to really maintain that like light section versus shadow section. All of these things, trying to keep a grip on it, right? To organize your values so that the range that you're exploring is wider but also much more subtle. You're putting them in areas that they're going to do the most amount of work in. You're prioritizing like the shapes that will give you the most kind of bang for your buck, I guess, when it comes to bringing attention and focus to the areas that matter. Very important to make sure that you're always checking that, because it's really easy, I think, to get to a point of having like super low contrast if you're kind of just painting and you're not evaluating like, is this shadow that I'm putting here important or helping or detracting from the kind of composition that I've created. And as soon as you recognize that it's no longer necessary or it's starting to take away too much attention, to immediately like stop and reevaluate, like, okay, how do I get back to the point that I wanted with this? Waffles. Thank you for coming, and thank you for the tier 1 sub for 5 months. I will hydrate. I wanted to ask whether or not you think it's important or advantageous to get an art degree in order to go into the industry. I'm 17, I have around 1.5 years in college, but not really sure if I should be looking to apply to one, whether it be to make connections in the industry or just be able to get a job easier because I have a degree. So I don't necessarily think it'll be easier to get a job because of a degree. I just think that absolutely the biggest benefit of going to college are the connections, right? Like, I can, like, a lot of the major jobs that I've gotten are because I was LinkedIn friends with my old teachers who then allowed me to show up when their industry friends searched up, like, you know, students that could take on like a contract or something. So like, I absolutely do think going to college means that you have access to this like new generation of professionals. I think that should be one of the biggest benefits to go to college, and one of the biggest reasons why you'd want to go to college. And it's a big reason why I don't regret going to college, even though I didn't finish, and even though I don't think my degree would have been worth it monetarily. I think what I did get from college was meeting some fantastic people who I still know and respect today, getting to meet teachers that actually had really good advice for me at the time. And overall, I think I've benefited a lot from going to school, just in a sense of like mentality and also just truly an opportunity. That being said though, like, do you need it to get a job? Unless you're looking to work internationally, right? Like if you're outside the US, getting a degree is a really important thing, I think, for getting a visa. So absolutely consider going to college if you intend on working overseas. Even if you are in the United States, you want to work overseas, or if you want to get a teaching position at any point, getting a degree is, I think, very important for that. But that being said, like if you can't afford like a degree, I think, you know, to a certain extent, like given the state of kind of like the accessibility to artists now, it's a double-edged sword, but it is a lot easier for people without prior connections to, you know, teachers and other students and other professionals. It's a lot easier now than ever to, I think, be able to get hired based on the merits of your work alone versus like who you know and who you meet, right? But it's a totally different can of worms to do that kind of stuff, which, you know, I went to school, so. Have I taken any classes at Concept Design Academy? I have not. It's not infinite, you'd have to refill it, but, like, I was thinking about it, and obviously magic items are meant to be, even just domestic ones, I feel like, are meant to be kind of difficult to come by in classic D&D, but the purpose of this setting, in a lot of ways, is that, like, this world has so much, a much more, a stronger connection to that, like, magic, you know, being like a ancestral thing for both the land and its people, that, like, I think just even domestic magic items are probably so much more common. So there's a point where I was like, oh shit, I should actually like be thinking about this stuff and coming up with some ideas, because I don't want them to just be using things that they could get overseas, because I think such an insulated place with such a love for magic would probably have come up with common day magic items that even your average, like, you know, stay-at-home mom would use. Yeah, I think school is a great place, and I think it can also be a terrible place. And I'm not gonna say that my time at school was like, you know, 5 stars, glowing review, but also I think a lot of who I am today was built in the time that I spent at school, and I'm not gonna pretend that it wasn't. And I generally do consider that time at school well spent, and I also consider my decision to leave a good one. So, you know, it's not very black and white, like school's bad or school's good, but I think, you know, doing what is best for you at that moment is the most important thing. And for me, at the time, school was very useful and helped me kind of focus my energy instead of, you know, thinking I could do it by myself when I really couldn't. Have you read the Kingkiller Chronicles? No, I haven't. Is it good? I do want to read more books. I want to get back into reading as like a pastime. Yeah, because this town was built by kind of like a very prestigious like consortium of magical researchers and stuff. Like in the past, I think, you know, the idea that they built it so that they could start to engage in like worldwide trade, it would be very important that they established like this kind of widespread use of magical items, right? And so I think, you know, even in this time where they've sort of become they've become a lot more secluded from outside technology, which has long since surpassed them in terms of physical technology, to have that be replaced with magical items that the players, who are, most of which are coming from off the continent, would not have ever seen. To replace that with like magical items, I think would make a lot of sense for them. Do you think there are tea elementals that work in cafes? Yeah, I was actually thinking of a concept for like basically like cafes where it's not really like tea, there's not really like elementals like spirits, but more so like spells which allow them to, you know, give you, like, you can choose the shape of your little creature, and so you can do like, oh, I want a dragon, so like a water dragon comes out, it flies back to like the kitchen, it gets the tea leaves, and then it kind of like brews it itself, and then it flies back into your cup, right? Or like you can choose like, you know, like a lion or a monster or something, and it'll find its way towards the kitchen somehow, and that's how it, like, they brew tea and other types of anything that a drink that uses water to, or a liquid to an extent, can like do that. And so it's not like the items maybe are necessarily magical, but like the ways in which they live their lives are very much tied to the use of magic, and when the magic is too complicated, that's when you would use magic items, right? Does your age matter much in a senior art position? No. I don't think age matters as much as being willing to take on the responsibilities of your role, right? The reason why younger people tend to not be in higher positions is because the expectations for those higher positions don't often come from just being good at what you do. It also comes from a degree of experience of knowing what your responsibilities are and being prepared to like fill them or kind of fill out towards like other disciplines if necessary. So senior positions often also require you, but not necessarily demand, because you might not find yourself in a position that has this. But like, if there is a junior artist, they are your responsibility. You kind of act as the sort of like mentor to them. You seniors tend to have to make creative decisions that have cascading impacts, right, on the product. They are also, you know, held to a standard in which they don't need like guidance or necessarily critique, but it's more so feedback to get them towards the right product. But it's not getting critiques, right? Your art is not getting like you know, feedback that's meant to make it better. Your art should be good enough to where it's not about being good at what you do. It's about getting the art and the concept and the ideas to the place that the product needs it to be. And that's not the same as just being good at art, right? So that's usually why I think you don't see a lot of younger people in senior positions. Oftentimes because the experience they need to be willing to like take care of a team and to like step up to that soft leadership role doesn't often come alongside like being right out of school. Typically you work in a couple places before that becomes like something you're used to doing or prepared to do. That's not to say that it's impossible for someone younger to get a senior position, but if that isn't a thing that they're worried about, right, that's the thing that they're very focused on, making sure that someone in that position has those experiences, that might be what excludes someone who just entered the industry versus someone who's been in it for a while, or even for a little bit. Yeah, that's cute. I really like that idea. See, it's just like, you know, the things that I like about fantasy is not really like the sprawling adventures are cool, but I also just like the implications of living with magic and having that be kind of like a backbone for how people live their lives. And something I noticed myself doing when I was kind of preparing for this campaign was I was falling back on a lot of classic fantasy tropes just because it almost felt like too much for me physically, like mentally, to like think about how all the ways that I've always wanted it to be different and new. And it was a lot easier just to go back to like, oh yeah, you know, it looks like a classic English medieval village, which is very disappointing to myself. I don't know why I did that. So trying to now make a concerted effort as I move forward to like spend some time thinking about how people live their lives and how that changes sort of the flavoring of the world around them. Especially because I have artificers in my D&D group, I think it's very important that I make magical items like something that is not necessarily like abundant, but just something that is common enough to have a place in the world, to really emphasize the whole like very deeply magical aspect of everything. Yeah, me and Gary love watching PokeToons. We watched them back when they were still just in Japanese. So seeing them get released in English was really nice because we can watch them again. I don't know why that's a debate, because you should. Thank you. Oh, I see. Honestly, I've been oversleeping my alarm as well, so I understand. Let's do... I do actually need to... Oh, where is it? I do need to draw 2 of the players, but I need to find my notes for them. Whoa. Hello. With an absence of whatever that is. Yes. I have 2 player characters that I haven't done art for. So I'm going to do that now. Indeed, a tiefling. Nah, I am just doing it because I wanted to run primarily theater of the mind kind of stuff, except for combat. And so all of the player characters have like these half bodies. These like actually I can show you. Players have these like half body drawings of them where hold on, make sure that nothing NDA pops up. Okay, cool. That show up on the screen when they're just like doing stuff and talking, so it shows who's there and who's not. And NPCs also get that too. So here's an example of one that I did. Another one. So these pop up on, there's like an RPG sequence, so all of these will like get stacked on top of each other. And then the NPCs that are like super important will also get one as well. So I need to have all of these done before we play. And this group will play on Sunday. Foundry. learning Foundry was like a second job. Sorbet, thank you for the tier 1 for 27 months. Thank you so much. Hey, sorry. It's not like super. I mean, it's simple once I have it set up, but to a certain extent, it's kind of not. I wish I could just kind of like import them as a group, but I have to hand place them every time they appear in a scene, so. But I guess the nice thing is that I can prep scenes ahead of time, so. You know, it's okay. I think the coolest and also like most frustrating part of Foundry are the it's like the automated part, because there's a certain extent where I really enjoy when things are like automated, certain numbers and math can just be done automatically, but I think sometimes it also takes away like the fun of rolling and gambling and not knowing what the dice is gonna say, and then it says this thing and he's like, oh my gosh, you know, so I need to figure out how to like build like the experience that I want in it. So I'm testing out different modules and we'll see how that goes. we'll end at our usual time. Did I use any rest for these, or is this coming right from my visual library? It is all from imagination. And thank you for coming. Always grateful that people drop by. Hey, Beals. Been a while since I caught a stream, so I want to stop by before I go to bed. Well, welcome. Welcome back. I think that was all that this person wanted. And thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Double check. Double beard, long hair. Okay. Yes, she was. Or they were, yes. How many ears does a ring on a tiefling's horn represent? I never thought about that. I mean, a painting will always take longer. Drawings can take anywhere from, I think, like, an hour to 2, depending on what it's about, I guess. Sheepish Land, thank you for the raid. I will check it out. Oh, it's not mine. I got those from a vendor. So the coffee page you're looking at belongs to the artist that made these, which they are very cute, but they are not mine. Uh, it's not meant to be like, I guess, super obvious, but this player really likes Cthulhu stuff, Lovecraftian stuff, which like I know very little about. All I know are that there are tentacles. He wanted to be like a very Lovecraftian warlock, but I gave him the Great Old One as a patron, and now I'm thinking, should I give him like one of the the deep, the ones of the deep, or whatever they're called, the sea creature, sea monster ones? But I don't know. I figured he'd like a Great Old One because he likes like mind flayers and stuff. It's just like so not anything that I've ever like been interested in. So I was like, okay, I think Great Old One fits. You know, I think these things fit. I don't know anything about Lovecraft or Cthulhu or anything like that. So it was a little bit like random for me. Yeah. To a certain degree. It's not gonna be super, like, clean or anything. Yeah, I was probably gonna reference, like, more Bloodborne stuff, because, like, actual Lovecraft has never been, like, super interesting to me. But we'll see. I mean, he mentioned that his character is. Well, he used the word posh, so I assume he meant mildly more well dressed. So, he will get better clothing. And then I have one more character that I have to draw, and then I can paint both of these. Paint's a loose term. I'm gonna shade both of these. He likes. Oh god. Was it? From. Movie? Okay, yes. Who's the blonde man? Chainsaw. Who's the. Oh, Kishu. He likes the Mads Mikkelsen guy from Chainsaw Man. When I was talking to the player for this character, he was basically like, I want something in between Ogata from Kamui and Kishibe from Chainsaw Man. And I'm like, okay, so like basically something in between, like, you know, your standard very stoic guy to like stoic guy 50 years later. Um, so you mentioned specifically liking their eyes though, which makes me wonder if I should just like keep his eyes totally dark or if I should go with like just no highlight. He's very particular about their eyes. think this is the first, like, just straight up, like, old or middle-aged dude that I've drawn in a very long time. Like, quite fun, actually. I do quite like drawing older characters. They're much more fun. If you don't draw older characters, you really should give it a try. It's fun just kind of like putting lines on them that you don't get to normally draw because it would make like the hot character not as hot, I guess. But here you're like wrinkles absolutely everywhere. And it's actually very nice. What is this? What are uniform dusters? Huh? Is it just the coat that goes on top of the coat? Oops. Do not know what a loose tie is supposed to look like. Ew. Personal? Hey, Sleepy. Yeah, at least he's staying a little. Got a little bit of his uniform going on. I'm honestly like the player for this character kind of sent me like some thoughts about his costume, so I was actually surprised that he put him in like still a kind of a uniform based on our discussion. But I think it does give him like a bit of a personal identity because no one else in the party really has any kind of uniform. Good night. This is the rogue, Inquisitor, rogue, gunslinger. Although they aren't either yet. Yeah, they wanted to be a detective, basically, so build very much around that. Don't actually know how these gun holsters work normally. Okay. Let's base color this, and then we will call it a night. Okay, I think that is it. Me today. Thank you guys for sticking around as I did a bunch of stuff. It was nice getting to just like relax and do some stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for stick around, chatting with me, hanging out with me on this Friday, and dealing with my lower energy. Thank you very much. I believe next Friday should be fine, but again, I will let you guys know if it ends up, anything ends up happening. But otherwise, I will talk to you all later, and I hope you guys have a lovely week. Happy Chinese New Year. You're the rabbit, so if you're a rabbit, this is your year. I'm cheering you on. And for the rest of us, let's do our best in this coming year. We got this. But yeah, thank you guys for coming, and I will see you guys next time.